There is a certain kind of person who is never quite fit. Not in the loud, dramatic way of someone who rebels, and not in the obvious way of someone who is simply shy or socially awkward. It is far more subtle than that and far more painful. You fit on the surface. You learned how. You learned to say the right things at the right time, to laugh at the right moments, to nod along in meetings and at dinner parties and in conversations that never quite reached the depth you were always, quietly, craving. But underneath all of that, underneath the performance of belonging, you have always carried this feeling. Like you are watching your own life through glass. Like everyone around you is fluent in a language you can almost speak but never quite feel in your bones. You have wondered, more than once, if something is wrong with you, why you think the way you think, why you feel things so completely while others seem to move through the world so lightly, why endings make you grieve before they even arrive, why you can walk into a room full of laughter and still feel profoundly, cosmically alone. Nothing is wrong with you. In fact, what you are about to discover is that everything about you, the things that have confused you, exhausted you, and made you feel like an outsider, are the hallmarks of one of the rarest, most psychologically complex personality structures in the world. Stay with me, because what is coming will not just explain you, it will change the way you see yourself forever. Sign 1. You see the end before others see the beginning. You are in a conversation and you already know how it ends. Not because you are cynical, not because you are pessimistic, but because your mind processes patterns at a speed that feels almost uncomfortable, like a film playing at double speed while everyone else watches frame by frame. A new project begins at work and you can already feel the exact moment it will fall apart. A relationship enters a new phase and you can sense, months in advance, the precise tension that will eventually crack its foundation. Someone tells you their plan with excitement in their eyes, and you smile and encourage them, because you love them, but somewhere inside you, quietly, you are already grieving the outcome they cannot yet see. This is called pattern integration. Psychologists describe it as the capacity to synthesize vast amounts of historical, emotional, and contextual data into probabilistic futures, almost unconsciously. Your brain has built thousands of internal models of how human situations unfold, and it runs new information through those models in real time. The hidden cost of this is profound, because seeing ahead means you carry the weight of endings before anyone else is ready to mourn them. And when the thing you saw finally happens, there is no relief, only the exhaustion of having carried it alone for so long. You were not built for what is visible. You were built for what is inevitable. Sign 2. You feel other people's emotions as if they are your own. You walk into a room and you know, before a single word is spoken, before a single expression crosses a single face, you know that 2 people in this room had an argument this morning. You know that the person laughing the loudest is the one suffering the most. You know that beneath the perfectly constructed surface of this ordinary Tuesday evening, something is breaking. And you didn't learn this. You didn't try to develop it. It simply arrived with you, like a frequency you were born tuned to. Psychologists call this affective empathy at the neurological level, and in people with your personality structure, it operates far beyond the norm. Mirror neuron systems, which allow humans to emotionally simulate the experiences of others, appear to be exceptionally sensitive in minds like yours. You do not just understand how someone feels, you absorb it. You carry it home with you. You lie awake at 2 a.m. feeling someone else's grief in your own chest. The emotional cost is this: you are carrying the weight of a room full of people's inner lives, and no one is carrying yours. You have become so fluent in the language of other people's pain that you have, at times, forgotten to speak your own. You are not too sensitive. You are too rare for a world that never learned to hold you back. Sign 3. You have always had a complicated relationship with time. You do not live in the present the way other people seem to. You are always somewhere else, not because you are distracted, but because your mind refuses to stay inside a single moment. You are simultaneously in the memory of something that happened 3 years ago and in the imagined landscape of something that might happen 3 years from now. And you are also here, in this moment, watching yourself be in all of those places at once. People have told you to be more present, to live in the now, and you have tried. You have genuinely, desperately tried. But presence, for you, is not a single room. It is a cathedral, vast, echoing, full of light coming from directions that others cannot name. Psychology calls this temporal disintegration, a hallmark of high abstract thinking personalities where the self is not anchored solely in the present moment but exists in a kind of distributed consciousness across time. It is the same cognitive trait that makes great writers, philosophers, and visionaries. It is also the trait that makes ordinary Tuesday afternoons feel like an existential landscape. The hidden wound here is the exhaustion of never being fully anywhere, of always standing slightly outside the frame of your own life, watching it, feeling it, but never quite inhabiting it the way others seem to do so effortlessly. But here is what no one tells you. That distance is not disconnection. It is perspective. And perspective, at its fullest, is the rarest form of sight. If you have made it this far into this video, I want you to pause for just a moment. Because the fact that you are still here, still watching, is itself one of the rarest things. Most people will click away. So stay connected with me, because the next 4 signs go deeper still. If any of this is resonating, leave a comment below. Tell me which sign hit you the hardest. And stay with me, because what is coming next is the sign that explains everything. Sign 4, you are exhausted by surfaces. Small talk is not just boring to you, it is physically draining. There is something about the ritual exchange of pleasantries, the weather, the weekend, the how are you fine thanks, that does not just fail to energize you. It actively depletes you. Like running a machine on the wrong fuel. You crave something that almost never happens in ordinary life. You want to know what someone actually believes, what they are actually afraid of, what keeps them awake at 3 a.m., what they would say if they knew they could not be judged. You want to reach through the costume of social performance and touch whatever real, raw, human thing is underneath. And because this rarely happens, because most social interaction stays at the level of surface, you often feel more alone in a crowd than you do in complete solitude. At least in solitude, you are only alone. In a crowd of surfaces, you are invisible. Depth-seeking is a documented trait of complex introverted intuitive personalities. Your brain is constantly searching for signal beneath noise, meaning beneath behavior, truth beneath language. When it cannot find it, it registers not just boredom, but a kind of spiritual starvation. You were built for conversations that change people, and you have spent most of your life attending ones that don't. Sign 5, you have always known you were different, but could never explain why. This is perhaps the oldest pain you carry, not the dramatic pain of obvious difference, but the quiet, bewildering pain of almost belonging. You were smart enough to adapt, emotionally intelligent enough to mirror. You learned to speak the language, but you never forgot that it was not your native tongue. As a child, you may have felt it first, the sense that your inner world was simply larger than the spaces you were given to live in, that your questions did not fit the containers adults offered, that the things that thrilled others, the trends, the gossip, the surface competitions, felt curiously hollow to you, even when you tried your hardest to find them meaningful. Psychologists studying gifted and complex personality types consistently describe this as the experience of asynchronous development, where emotional depth, philosophical awareness, and intuitive sensitivity develop far ahead of the social and cultural frameworks available to contain them. You arrived somewhere your world was not yet ready for. The wound this leaves is subtle but bone deep. It is the longing to be known, fully known. Not your surface, not your performance, not your most socially acceptable self, but the full, complicated, luminous architecture of who you actually are. You have been waiting for someone to be able to hold all of you. And the heartbreaking truth is that most people simply do not have the capacity. Not because they are unkind, but because what you are is extraordinarily rare. Sign 6. You process pain by turning it into meaning. When something breaks you, and things have broken you, you do not simply survive it. You do something stranger and more beautiful. You turn it over and over in your hands like a stone, examining it from every angle, pressing on it, refusing to let it be merely pain. You need it to mean something. You need to understand not just what happened, but why, and what it reveals about the nature of human beings, and what it asks of you now. This is not avoidance. It is the opposite. It is one of the deepest, most psychologically sophisticated responses to suffering that exists. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Holocaust, built an entire school of psychology around this exact mechanism, the human capacity to transform suffering into meaning as an act of profound psychological survival and transcendence. People like you do this instinctively. Breakups become revelations. Failures become restructurings. Losses become the painful, necessary architects of who you are still becoming. But the cost is real, because meaning making is not the same as healing. And sometimes, in your rush to understand your pain, you skip the part where you are simply allowed to feel it, where you are allowed to be broken without immediately asking what the broken thing is teaching you. You are allowed to hurt without the hurt having a lesson. You are allowed to simply be held by the weight of it, without having to transform it into anything at all. Sign 7. You have always carried a grief you cannot name. This is the sign that contains all the others. There is something inside you, something that has been there for as long as you can remember, that feels like longing. Not for a person, not for a place, not for anything specific you can point to. Just a longing. A sense that somewhere, somehow, there is a version of your life where you are completely understood, where the conversation never has to stay at the surface, where the people around you can hold the full weight of who you are without flinching, where you do not have to translate yourself into smaller, safer, more palatable versions just to be loved. Psychologists have a word for this. The Portuguese have a more beautiful one: saudade, the ache for something you may never have had but feel the absence of, like a phantom limb. Jungian analysts speak of the unlived life, the grief of the self that was never given space to fully exist. For people with your personality type, this grief is not a symptom of something wrong. It is, paradoxically, the proof of how alive you are. You ache for depth because you are built for it. You long for connection because you are capable of a quality of connection that most people will never experience in their lifetimes. The grief is real, but so is what the grief is pointing to. It is pointing to everything you are, everything you were made for. A life not of ordinary belonging, but of extraordinary meaning. You have just taken a journey through 7 of the most intimate truths of one of the rarest personality structures on Earth. And if you recognized yourself in these pages, if you felt that quiet, almost painful trembling of being truly seen, then I need you to hear this with every part of you. Your depth is not a burden. It is a cathedral that most people will spend their entire lives outside of, mistaking its walls for distance, never knowing the world of light that lives inside. The things that have isolated you, these are not the symptoms of a broken person. They are the architecture of an extraordinary one. If this video reached something inside you that you have never quite been able to put into words, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below telling me which sign felt most like coming home.